All right, let's do this. First podcast, first YouTube video. I'm more than excited for this because I don't know, I've been wanting to do this since forever, basically. I had my German podcast, but obviously I switched over from German to English like 3 or 4 years ago, and I never really started my own podcast or my own YouTube channel. And finally the time has come because I was so frustrated to be so limited of time on Instagram, which is my main platform. And I just wanna not have this time pressure all the time where I try to fit everything into one reel that's 30 or 60 seconds long. I just want to talk. I want to bring on guests. I want to have smart conversations with smart people. I want to share valuable information. I really want to give you detailed insights into some of the things that I do and some of the guests that I'm going to bring on. And yeah, man, I'm so pumped and I'm so excited to finally start this. And I'm trying to be as consistent as possible with it. I'm super busy with my clients with the Neurotraining Institute, but I'm really dedicated to make this a consistent thing. I'm not sure if it's gonna be an every week type of thing, but I'm definitely gonna make this a new project of mine, which I'm super passionate about and I'm super pumped about. So I'm gonna give you a little bit of a breakdown what this episode today is about. So first of all, I'm gonna talk a little bit about myself and Neurotraining Institute, a little bit of my vision with first of all my educational platform, which is Neurotraining Institute, but then also yeah, where I see myself with my clients, with my athletes, what change I want to make in the whole fitness industry, because I've got big plans in the whole industry for the next couple of years, and I'm really excited for that. And then I'm also gonna give you a little bit of a breakdown why I'm so passionate about the brain. I mean, I'm sort of known as the neuro guy, as the brain guy, which wasn't always the case, but I feel like the last 3 or 4 years that just has been, I don't know, sort of my niche and just what people know me for. Um, and I just wanna give you a breakdown as to how I came across neurotraining or neurology, and why I'm so passionate about it and why I think it's so critical and so important. And I'm actually gonna share three main reasons why I think working brain based or working neuro based is the way to go. So I'm gonna give you my three main reasons why. So yeah, let's do this. I'm super excited. So first of all, I'm gonna give you a little bit of a breakdown for those of you. I mean, some of you have been following me since the German days. So I don't really have to introduce myself to you, but I'm sure there's a lot of people that just, I don't know, follow me on Instagram or have came across my page, and they have no idea who I am and what I do and what neurotraining is, or what Neurotraining Institute is. So I just want to give you a brief breakdown. I really don't like to talk about myself. It's just something that I just don't enjoy. I feel like I'm always sounding salesy. When I have to talk about myself, last week I actually spoke in front of 1,000 people on a stage, and they asked me to introduce myself and what I do, and I don't know why it's so uncomfortable sometimes to I don't know, describe what I do, because it's so, it's I do so many things for people. And I think Eugene Theo, which I think is really cool. I think he also one time in a podcast he talked about how he's a problem solver, and I think that's such a cool thing to do, or to say. I call myself a human performance specialist. I think, and I really thought about it for a very long time to find a name that sounds sexy and that can somehow describe what I do. And I think human performance specialist, I mean, it sounds cool. It sounds pretty nice. Before I called myself a health and performance coach, and I was a neuro performance coach, whatever you want to call me. Honestly, I think it's a little bit, you're sometimes limiting yourself, describing what you do. But yeah, at the end of the day, I work with people. I work primarily with athletes. I work with people in chronic pain. I work with people um, that, have any sort of injury or just want to really optimize their performance, get stronger, get faster, move better, feel better, think better. Like that's basically what type of people I usually work with. And I've been doing that now since a pretty long time. So I'm not gonna tell you my whole like life story, but like I just want to give you a brief breakdown, like how I came across what I'm doing. So basically, like I'm originally from Germany. I grew up in a little town close to Munich, and I was always really passionate about sports. I always found it super fascinating, to learn more about the human body. I played soccer for most of my youth. Was actually a pretty good player, and like when I was young, I actually like had the ambitions to become a professional. But then I just sort of like lost the passion for it. I switched to basketball. Then I wanted to become a basketball player, but that also was sort of like way too late. Like I started basketball when I was 16, 17, and it's almost impossible to make the jump when you're starting that late. So I just basically decided for myself that I wanna work with athletes. I just wanna work with professional athletes, or just I want to help people, um, like young athletes to, like become the best version of themselves. It's actually right now, it's actually one of my biggest passions to work with young athletes, like 15 to 18 years old, like, or like 20 years old. Like that's such a cool age because like they're so hungry, and like they're so like their brains are so plastic. So you can make so much great changes in someone's nervous system, in someone's brain, and someone's, movement skills, and the way they think, and the way, like, yeah, they just operate with their body. And I think that's just something where right now I'm the most passionate about it. I mean, I also have worked with Olympic athletes. I'm still working with some Olympic athletes. I'm still working with, like many professional athletes. And, yeah, but like I said, right now, I would say my main passion is working with young athletes, but I still work with, also with, like a lot of people with chronic pain. I'm also really passionate about just helping people move better and just, help them break through, because especially in the pain world, like it's so hard for a lot of people to really understand like where their pain is coming from, and like how to really attack chronic pain. So that's also something where I'm super passionate about. I've also worked with a lot of, like neurological clients, like Parkinson's, dementia, and yeah, I just love to work with a variety of people. Like sometimes I end my day and I'm looking back and I'm like, wow, today I worked with an 85-year-old Parkinson's client. I operate mostly online, so like it allows me to have clients from all over the world. So like, like I think about, okay, like I worked with this guy, like he was 85 years old, but then you have an Olympic athlete in the next call. Like it's just cool. It's awesome. I freaking love it. But yeah, so that's basically a little bit about myself, what I'm doing right now. And just, I started in the fitness industry. I studied in Germany, fitness and health management. That wasn't really it. Like, honestly, the information that you get in the universities is usually not really like the best. So I basically self-taught everything that I know right now. Like, I'm just really like self-made in that regard. But like I've learned from, like a lot of great people. First, I was love him or hate him. I was really into like Charles Poliquin stuff. I know he gets a lot of criticism, which absolutely is correct. Like he taught a lot of bullshit, but at the same time, he also like taught a lot of great concepts. Like about hard work and about mindset. And I think he definitely has inspired some of the things that I do. And he was actually the first one that brought me sort of like into the neuro space. Like he was talking about neurotransmitters and like different archetypes, or like different fire types. That was the thing for him. Like he was talking about how certain neurotransmitters are dominant in certain people, and like you should adjust the training. And I mean, I actually think there is some truth to it. Not the way he taught it, but I think, yeah, definitely like some people, certain personality types need to have a different training method, which I definitely think is a great way of seeing things. I know that Christian Thibodeau also like has this like sort of like neurotyping concept, which like, again, like I don't think like the stuff that they're talking about like really makes a lot of sense from, let's say, a scientific perspective, or like how neurotransmitters really work. But I think it's an interesting concept, and that was also what sort of like allowed me to get into the neuro field pretty early actually in my career. So yeah, I mean, I just first learned. I tried to learn everything about training, then I tried to learn everything about nutrition, and I tried to learn everything about, like I had a lot of clients with a lot of like, autoimmune issues, hormonal issues, like um, thyroid, autoimmune stuff, like just a lot of different cases. Like that was actually in the beginning of my career. I would say I worked with a lot of like Gen Pop clients that had these issues, and I still address a lot of these issues now with my professional athletes. I know a lot of people just want to work with me about with the neuro stuff and like getting stronger and getting faster, but like I still address some of these issues because like if your whole system is not working, your brain will not work. And yeah, and then like a few years back, I started to become a little bit more active on social media. I switched my content from German to English. And then more and more coaches, started reaching out about, some of the things that I was posting because like I was posting a lot about, like vision stuff and vestibular stuff and like just the brain itself. And that's sort of like how Neurotraining Institute got started. So I ran my first seminars, online with, like small groups, and that was so cool. Like I really miss those days. That was so cool. And yeah, and that's sort of like how I got started with the whole educational field. And yeah, now I really like we have students from all continents. It's really amazing. Like we have a lot of people on in the courses, different backgrounds, like coaches, massage therapists, physiotherapists, yoga teachers, like so many different people that just want to understand um movement, health, and performance through a neurological lens. Because, like I said, that's I think really the future of where the fitness industry is heading. It's more and more incorporating a lot of these neuro-based aspects. And the the main reason why I'm so passionate about Neurotraining Institute is because like I'm a little bit frustrated with the education that is offered in the neuro space, honestly speaking, because like a lot of these companies that offer neuroeducation, which I don't want to like talk bad about anybody, but like I just think like a lot of them just are missing key pieces, key puzzle pieces that I just really realized that like the more I use some of the neuro approaches that, like, yes, you can do so many amazing things by just focusing on the eyes and like focusing on the input systems and stuff like that. But you still need to understand biomechanics. You need to understand, like, you need to understand hormones. You need to understand how people think. Like you need to understand all of these different things in order to really maximize someone's performance or someone's health. And like some people that like neuro is big in Germany, and like a lot of people, I see a lot of people just like they think they can fix everything with like vision drills, and I think that's the wrong conception. Or like they think like they just really have a lot of like missing links. And like I just try to use my understanding of neurology and my understanding, and also like the researchers understanding, of course, to neurology, and make it applicable for people. Because the biggest problem that I have with the fitness industry is like everything has to be so overcomplicated, and like people just want to make everything so complicated just to sell their own things. And I just try to make it simple, not too simple. Like it takes some time to really learn the stuff that I teach, but like it is applicable. Like it is something like in all of the modules and courses and levels that I have in Neurotraining Institute, everything is sort of like applicable and usable. And it's nothing that I teach is something where you're like, okay, that's nice, but like, how am I going to use that? And that sort of like was my main frustration with a lot of seminars that I saw. It's just like you go to these seminars, you book these online courses, and you do the online courses, then you learn a ton of stuff, but like then you're like, man, like how am I even going to use this in my work? So that's always my vision, just to not overcomplicate things, and just make it applicable. And like one final thing before we dive a little bit more into the neuro stuff. I think the most important thing right now where the fitness industry has to change, and that's also where my vision is sort of like heading towards, is we need to move away from this rigid perspective on everything has to be science-based. And that comes from someone that is super into science. I love reading research. I love reading studies, but people get so freaking like narrowed down with their focus on, okay, if there is no study, that means it doesn't work, which absolutely frustrates me because only because some things we don't have a study for it doesn't mean that they don't work. And like a lot of the things that I teach and a lot of the things that I do, I don't have an explanation for it. Like I don't have a study for it. I might have some sort of logical explanation for it, but I don't have a study for certain things that I do. But I just know that it works from experience. And I think that's just something where I always also teach my students and tell everyone that's starting in the fitness industry to just have an open mind and not get so like narrowed down into like, okay, like this is the only way that it is just because there's, certain like research on it. So I think that's just something that like we need to find this healthy connection between the research and experience. Like both have a valuable place. And then you have people that like are complete bro scientists and then like hardcore like research based people. Like I don't think that's the way to go. The truth is always in the middle. And like the fitness industry is so black and white. Like I say it all the time, it's so black and white. It's either this or it's that. Why can't it just be like all of it? Like why can't it be a combination of it? And like I said, that's sort of like my mission with Neurotraining Institute and just the coaching that I provide for my clients is to view things from a global lens, which is so important. But yeah, let's get into some of the neuro stuff. So first of all, again, let's talk about the 3 reasons why I got into the whole neuro field. And the main reason, it's so simply explained. The main reason why I'm so passionate about the brain is because the brain controls everything. The brain controls pretty much everything that we do. And the thing is, whether you're an athlete and you want to perform at the highest level, or you're someone that tries to come back from an injury or come back from chronic pain, then the number one thing that you always need to think about is that the brain controls all of these things. The brain controls how much performance we can produce. The brain controls how much force we can produce. The brain controls how flexible we are. The brain controls the levels of pain that we're under. So the brain controls basically everything that you can just think of. And that just really made so much sense to me when I actually had my own like experience with pain a few years back. Because like I never had pain, I never had issues, and I like at a certain point I just developed a like sort of like back pain. And I was like, what is this? Like I don't understand it. I'm doing everything right, quote unquote, with my training. And I realized that every time I had a fight with my now wife, like I just started to develop this back pain. And that's the perfect understanding how the brain basically controls everything. And I mean, that's just thoughts. Thoughts have such a profound impact on our whole system. But it's not only thoughts. So like I always talk about that the brain, in order to actually allow for optimal performance or pain-free movement, the brain just needs to have one thing. The brain needs to feel safe. When the brain feels safe, when the brain feels like, okay, I'm in a good place for surviving, then you will be able to actually tap into your performance potential. Then you will be able to, like move pain-free. And that's also something that I've discovered working with a lot of like chronic pain type people. It's just that whenever I ask them, okay, when is your pain the highest? Like they just tell me, yeah, it's usually when I'm stressed, or like when, like I don't know, when I have work deadlines, or like when I travel a lot, or like, just like a lot of these things where you just have the autonomic nervous system just being shifted more into that sympathetic drive where people just feel more tense and like just feel more pressure. That's usually when like a lot of the pain issues like arrive. And it's also with athletes. I mean, with athletes, it's the same thing. Whenever they don't perform at their heights, it's usually when they feel too overly stimulated with stress. It doesn't mean that you should never feel stressed as an athlete. I think it's a very probably a topic for another episode when we talk about stress and like how it's actually a good thing. But like it's the same thing. It's the same concept. So to put things into a nutshell, like the reason why I really like to focus on the brain is because the brain controls everything, and we cannot achieve pain-free movement and performance if we don't feel safe. And in Neurotraining Institute, always talk about the 8 skills to really make sure to provide a safe feeling for the brain, both again from a pain perspective, but also again from a movement and performance perspective. And that also goes true for like, let's say your goal is weight loss. Like I feel like everyone needs to have these 8 skills in order to actually move optimally through the world and move optimally through their given sport. And these 8 skills that I always talk about, and that's going to probably be a more detailed episode in another podcast, is number one, move well. It's like we need to be able to move well. And that's where I really view things through a biomechanical lens first. Like I really look at, the different like structures of the body. I look at the pelvis, I look at the rib cage, I look at the neck, I look at the feet, I look at the femur, tibia, knee. Like I look at a lot of different structural aspects because that's going to be really important to understand how someone uses their body to move through the world. And that also a lot of times explains why certain people are better at doing X things than Y things. Like it's really important to understand like how some of these, genetic prepositions are affecting us and like affecting our movement strategies and affecting performance and affecting pain and all of these things. So I view things through this biomechanical lens because I know the brain will always adjust to depending on like what structure we have genetically. And as you might know, like we are all asymmetric. Like one thing that I think is also very much misunderstood is people think that we look perfect. I mean, honestly, we almost look perfectly symmetrical on the outside, but we're asymmetrical on the inside. So like our organs, like our liver is on the right side, which is heavier. So like humans usually like they're gravitating more towards their right side, which is something that like was also such a big aha moment for me when I, like really understood this concept and understood like just these ideas of, okay, like our asymmetrical prepositions, they actually affect the way we move and like the way the brain has to find strategies and like solutions for us to like help us through the world. So that's the first skill, move well. Then number 2 is we have to see well. So like our visual system is key. Our visual system is the number one input system for survival or also for our environment. Imagine like going through your day with your eyes closed. And that's also why I talk so much about the visual system, not only for, like professional athletes where sports vision is a really important skill, but like really just to be able to access some of like our visual input, because like whenever we don't see well, that can actually like help like that can actually impact us in a negative way of like us feeling more threatened because like we can't perceive our environment that well. And I mean that's gonna be something that's what I actually talked about. I don't know where, but I was talking about like the fitness industry is finally catching up about the importance of breathing. And it's going to take another 5 or 10 years for the fitness industry to actually respect how important vision is. And like I said, I just want to try to be one of the like forward thinkers with that regard, because I can see those crazy improvements when you just address the visual system. And that's something that actually it's a little bit of a complicated thing. People think it's just doing a few like pencil push-ups or something like that. It's actually a pretty interesting thing. But again, that's something that we're going to cover in the future. So we have move well, we have see well. Then perceive well is also another skill. So we have to perceive information obviously through our eyes, but like I just put see well as like single skill because like it's so important specifically for performance and movement. Perceive well, I'm talking more about like the sensory receptors that we have throughout the body. We're talking about the different proprioceptors. We're talking about the different pressure receptors that we have, nociceptors. We're talking about the sense of smell. We're talking about hearing. So like a lot of these inputs actually are affecting us. And like there's more and more research coming out about all of these different things. I think it's so cool. Like, for example, talking about olfactory stimulation and like how just the sense of smell can affect us. Like it's so fascinating. So like perceive well is also something that I think is really critical and very much underrated. It's a really simple thing to address at times. I mean, it definitely gets complicated when we're talking about all the different receptors and like the different peripheral nerves and cranial nerves and stuff like that. But I think that's something that like is also really critical. So we have move well, see well, perceive well. Next thing, balance well. So in order for the brain to feel safe, we need to be able to balance well. Our vestibular system sitting in our inner ear is the main organ in our body that actually like gives us a sense of gravity. So like which way is up, which way is down, where am I going? So like the vestibular system constantly sends signals to the brain and feedback to the brain as to like where am I in space? I mean that's proprioception, but like where am I moving? Like where is my position? And here's also so interesting because like vestibular function is so critical because like one of the biggest fears that humans have is the fear of falling. And like whenever our vestibular system doesn't send high quality signals to the brain, that can, number one, automatically decrease someone's performance because like the brain, like in order to keep us safe, like how safe do you think the brain will feel when we're like gonna like jump 3 meters high? Like the brain is gonna be like, hey, I'm gonna put the brakes on because I don't want you to jump that high, or I don't want you to run that fast because you might hit the ground with your head. So that's something that I think not only from a like rehab perspective for like athletes after concussions and stuff like that is important, but it's actually really important for normal like athletic performance. And I think that's like I said, such a important tool that I always address and really like to use a lot of different assessments for the vestibular system to really make sure that we're targeting the right areas. So yeah, that's number 4. So we have move well, see well, perceive well, balance well. The next thing is we have to think well. Again, that's something that not a lot of people like are talking about that much. Like, yes, of course, like, movement is important and biomechanics are important and, like vision is important, but like, what are you actually thinking about all day? And I think that's something where, a lot of people overcomplicate this thing as well. And obviously our thoughts are impacted by a lot of these, like external, stimuli. So like, for example, smell can affect our emotions, or vision can affect our emotions, or breathing can affect our emotions. So like we have all of these different impacts. That's why oftentimes I mean, when I work specifically with young athletes, I talk a lot about, like goal setting and, like finding the right identity and, like just different things that are important just from a mindset perspective. But like at the same time, like I need to be able to, make the brain feel safe with the 7 different other skills in order to think clearly and think well. And that's, I think, what's really important. And usually, I mean, with people that, let's say, have some level of, like anxiety, I usually first start with the physical stuff, because oftentimes when we address the physical stuff, then the whole mental stuff goes hand in hand with it. Not always, but like it's definitely something that I see so many times when you just, like work on someone's breathing or work on someone's visual system or, just like different things. Oftentimes their thoughts become so much better and they're so much more positive. Why? Because the brain feels safer. And again, when the brain doesn't feel safe, we have this amygdala hijacks, or threat center in the brain, which like is so important. Like we have to have like this brain area, quote unquote, under control. So our muscle tone doesn't shift into this like tense, like activity all the time. And like that also, again, like it affects our thoughts, it affects everything. So think well is also something that I definitely address. All right, so we have move well. It's a good memory training right now. Move well, see well. Then we had perceive well, balance well, think well. Then we have breathe well. So like breathing, like I said, it's something that the fitness industry is finally catching up with. Although I don't really like the the tendency it's going towards, because like a lot of it is going towards deep belly breathing and breath work and like all of these crazy like fancy things that you see online. I think it's more important to actually first look at the breathing strategy that someone is using. Like, where are they compressed? Like, how are the respiratory muscles actually working? How is the diaphragm moving? Like, what is the rib cage structure? What is the pelvis doing? Like, all of these things actually are affected by, like, will affect someone's breathing strategy, because like we have to breathe, and like we breathe around 22,000 times a day, which is important to actually look at. So like I really like to look at things that people do repetitively, and like I try to like address this first. That's also why like the visual system is so important, because we just do it all the time. Like we see and we observe our environment all the time, and like all of these like subconscious things that we do repetitively, I think are so important. All right, so we have breathing. So we have two more left. We have had so far move well, see well. I'm just trying to repeat this so you guys also remember it. Move well, see well, perceive well, balance well, think well, breathe well. So now we have react well. And the last one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Feel well. Yes. So react well and feel well. Let's start with react well first. So react well has more to do with, like making quick decisions, like millisecond by millisecond. So again, it's important for athletes to be able to make really fast decisions when the ball is coming, or like when I have to change directions. Like that's where reacting well is a really important like brain-based skill that we have. And then like that's just something where, like a lot of the different areas in the brain, like the frontal lobe, like plays a major role, like the basal ganglia, the cerebellum, like all of these different areas actually like intertwine with each other, and they form this movement signal. Like they send it down the spine to the different muscles so we can actually make a quick decision. But again, it's important to also view this from a pain perspective, because if I can't make quick and fast decisions, that also will not allow me to, like react to a potential threat or danger like the way I actually would want it to. Okay, so that's going to be something that like I also address with a lot of people, just like working on their coordination, like working on like making quick and fast decisions. And we can address and like we can assess a lot of these brain areas in order to actually optimize that. And then the last one is actually feel well. So feel well, I talk more about interoception. So like how well the brain actually perceives the body itself. So like how well is the brain actually like thinking about our own body? And that's where a lot of people actually have some major issues, because like something in their like body is either off. We're talking about things like gut health and like hormonal stuff. But we can also talk about people just lose the sense of like self almost. Like they're so out of tune with their body. That's why sometimes just like, like closing the eyes and checking back in with the body and feeling the body is so important to address. But like I think gut health is something that like I always address, and I actually run blood tests on all of my clients to really address some of these underlying quote unquote metabolic physiological type issues, because that's also where, like you can see a lot of problems occurring when someone has some underlying gut issues. And I'm speaking from experience. Like I had a really horrible parasite infection a few years back, which actually like I had like to fight with like about like 2 years to really get rid of, like the parasitic infection. And that was really horrible. I could feel it in my brain function. I could just feel it in my focus and my like brain fog. And we can't talk about we can't talk about brain function and not talk about some of these things too. Like, and that's again like just something where I have never found anyone really like combine like these like viewpoints, which I think is so important and it's so critical. And yeah, so we're talking about like I said, gut health, neurotransmitters, like just like the bio like the neurochemistry that's actually going on, dopamine, serotonin, acetylcholine, like all of these different, like neurotransmitters, which also control us. And yeah, so that's basically the feel well pillar as well. So these are my 8 skills. I know I've talked a lot about them now, but like I really want you to understand that like this is basically like these are the 8 skills that I personally, and I mean, of course, we can find another, like concept or system, but like this is the system that I personally have discovered for myself that really works well, like for athletes, for pain people. And I teach this to all of my students in Neurotraining Institute, just like these 8 pillars and like these 8 skills and like how to actually use these 8 skills, optimize them, find out where does someone need more or less work, and just combine and make in a whole. And like I said, like it's been really, really good. It's been really effective. And I think this is the easiest way to break it down because like I said, this is the number one thing, or like these are the skills that the brain needs to feel safe. Okay. And of course we can talk about things like sleep and like all of these things that all like intertwine, but like you have to somehow like make it simple and break it down so people can actually understand what to focus on, like how the body works and like how the brain works and all of these things. Okay. So this is the first part. Okay. So the brain needs to feel safe and we have to have these 8 skills in order to like feel safe. The number 2 reason why I'm so passionate about the brain is just because neuroscience is such a fast-paced science and there's so much research coming out in the topic, which I think is fascinating. And like, if you again, if you view things through a neural lens, like a lot of things just change, a lot of things just click and make sense, And I'm not just talking about, like thoughts. I'm also talking about like different brain areas. Like there was just another study, like I think last year in October coming out about the cerebellum. Like cerebellum doesn't only control now like coordination, but it also is involved in like cognitive function and actually like storing emotions and things like that. So like it's so crazy how much research is coming out in the whole neuroscience field. It's freaking incredible. And that's why, like I said, I really like to view things through this neural lens. And like I said, I combine it with a lot of the other knowledge that I have just to make things meet and just to make things clear and easy to understand for students and like also for the clients that I work with. And then number 3, the one thing that I'm so passionate about, like just working brain-based, is just the speed of the results that you can achieve and like the speed of delivery for your clients. Like it's just incredible. Like I just and that's also one thing that people criticize me for, which I get. Like people think, oh, like he's doing this vision drill and all of a sudden they're more flexible, but that doesn't last long. Well, that's true. It might not, like last like that long, but at the same time, it's also not what I'm after. Like if you're doing, let's say you're doing a hands-on treatment, or if you're doing let's say you're going to the gym and like you want to improve your movement or you want to improve your mobility, like do you expect this result to stick forever after just doing like 1 rep in the gym or like 1 set in the gym? Probably not. But like that's what I'm after. Like I want to figure out, where does the brain send me positive signals as to, okay, like let's say we're testing someone's mobility and then we're doing some stuff with the visual system and then we're retesting their range of motion. All of a sudden they're so much better. Okay, it might be a good idea to actually like address the visual system with that person. Okay, so like that's just my viewpoint on this. And like if you really understand neuroplasticity and like how the brain works and how we can drive neural changes, that's exactly where this whole aspect just comes into play. So, like I said, like the speed of the results is just so cool. And I've seen, like specifically working with athletes, it's so incredible. Like you're just sometimes doing some easy drills, You find out, okay, like we're gonna stimulate your vestibular system like this way, and you're just gonna do this, and you're gonna sprint. We're gonna do the drill, and you're gonna sprint again. We measure the time. All of a sudden, you're faster. Like that's just so cool to me, and like that's just why I'm so fascinated about it. And then, like I said, I'm being logical with it. I'm not saying, okay, like, yeah, we're just gonna like everyone just do this one neuro drill and like all of a sudden all of your issues are gone. No, like I combine it with all of the other things that I just talked about. But like I said, just the speed that I can receive the information from the nervous system, I think is just so cool. And like you should always, in my opinion, as a coach or as a therapist, you should be able to create changes. Like, let's say somebody comes to you with pain and like you have a certain range of motion that they have right now. You should be able to, within like one session, to improve their movement capacities. In my opinion, if you're not able to do this, you're doing something wrong, or like you don't really know what you're doing. So that's, like I said, just something where I'm super passionate about and why I'm so fascinated about the whole brain stuff. Okay, so these are my three things. I know I've talked a lot about the different skills to feel safe, but like I said, this is number one. Like the brain needs to feel safe, and like if the brain doesn't feel safe, like we're never gonna have the performance potential that we actually like naturally would have, and we also might not, like get out of pain. So that's number one. Number two, we talked about neuroscience and like how it's just so incredible and like such a fast-paced science. And then number three, just the quickness of the results that we can achieve is really cool. Like the quickness of feedback I can receive from the client is really cool. So yeah, so this is it so far for the three reasons why I'm so passionate about the brain. I hope this was helpful. I hope this gave you a little bit of understanding what Neurotraining Institute is about, what neurotraining is about. Like I said, it's just like, why do I call it Neurotraining Institute still? It's just because I like the whole like neuro aspect behind it. Like it's more than just, like I said, like vision training or vestibular training. It's so much more than that, what I teach. But yeah, and that's like I said, that's my vision for the fitness industry, to have these tools applicable, to have these tools in hand to really like drive change in the nervous system, to drive change in the body, and just to make people feel better and perform better. That's basically just my vision with it. And like I said, I'm just super passionate about this podcast now. I'm super excited for it. Like I said, I'm going to try to make this as consistent as possible. And I hope you liked this episode. If you really liked it, then share it. If you hated it, please let me know what I can do better. I'm always open for feedback, but I'm super excited that the first episode is in the books, and I hope to see you guys soon. And before you leave, I actually have a really important announcement to make for next month, the month of August. We have a 2-day online seminar coming up. It's going to be August 26th and 27th. So it's going to be a 2-day online event about neurotraining. It's really going to be amazing. We just launched it, I think, like 3 or 4 days ago, and we have already people on from 5 different continents, so all different parts of the world. So it doesn't matter where you're from, you're invited. And it's going to be a 2-day event. So I'm going to really like give you a lot of practical knowledge about neurotraining. So of course, we're going to talk about the theory, and we're going to talk about, like neurology and brain function and the different brain areas and input systems and the visual system, vestibular function, proprioception, movement, biomechanics. But I'm also going to give you really a lot of practical tools. So like once you're finished with the seminar, you can actually apply all of these things right away, and you can actually, use this in your daily work with clients or with patients. Or also if you're an athlete and you just want to optimize your performance, optimize your movement, optimize your health, this is also going to be for you. So it's not just for, coaches or therapists. And yeah, it's going to be August 26th, 27th. And since you're already a loyal listener, hopefully, for the podcast, I'm actually going to give you a pretty juicy discount. You're going to get $100 off with the code EARLY. So early in capital letters, 100. I'm also going to put this into the show notes as well as the website. So you just put this in the checkout as a coupon, and you're going to get $100 off. So usually the invest for the course is it's actually only $299 anyways, but it's even going to be cheaper. So it's going to be $199 for the 2-day event. So that's really probably one of the most amazing offers that I ever have offered at Neurotraining Institute. So yeah, if you're interested, just go over to the website, sign up. Like I said, we're gonna start next month. I'm super excited for it, and yeah, I hope to see a lot of you guys in the course. And with that said, I see you guys in the next episode.